Welcome back to another video on L Sports. And this is a special video, and I've been prepared to make this one for a while now. But with the recent events that have transpired with NXT, this has become official. NXT is now the A show in WWE. I don't think NXT is developmental anymore. Obviously, got Evolve and LFG just ended with two winners coming up to NXT. So congratulations to them making it through the system or whatever. Then you have Evolve, where you have newer wrestlers, younger wrestlers that are coming in. When I see somebody like Ethan Page, who is almost 40 and still in NXT, he came into WWE and was directly put into NXT. A Stephanie Vicar who dominated in Japan, even though I think she had the choice of being in NXT. I can't call that developmental anymore. And I think, and even if you want to call it that, I don't see it as that. I think NXT is now the A show. And I have five talking points that I want to get into for this video. So, my first talking point is some of the top moments from NXT this year. I have five. And then some of the stuff you might have heard me talk about in videos on my podcast. Because each month, at the end of the month, I give out wrestling awards for every company, all the companies that I watch: AEW, TNA, WWE, New Japan, the Big Four. Each month I do wrestling awards where I give out awards for who I think perform the best for certain things like MVP, Rookie of the Year, etc. And then I got a big end of the year plan for that. So I'm not gonna give y'all too much on that, but if you pay attention to my podcast, I do that usually at the end of each month or at the beginning of the new month. So that's what some of the stuff will refer to as some of the top moments. I think one of the top, and then to get into the first top moment, it's in January with Bayley working all three brands, working Raw, working SmackDown, working NXT. But I feel like her best work was on NXT, and that's why I gave her Female Superstar of the Month in January, because of what she was doing in NXT and the stuff that her feud with Roxanne Perez. It was actually great. It sucks that it didn't have a clear winner. They had the fatal four-way match. They did some stuff here and there, but it sucks there's no definitive winner with that, because it really did help Roxanne, even elevated Julia and Cora Jade with them doing the feud. So it was some really good stuff. You got some of the best promo work you've seen from Roxanne Perez in NXT so far, being with Bayley. So that's one of the top moments so far. Then in February, it was February 4th, the segment with Julia, Roxanne, Bayley, and Charlotte, with Charlotte not deciding who she wants to pick for the Royal Rumble. And I'm glad that she didn't pick NXT talent this time, except when it made sense. But this segment was really good, and it's showcasing the main roster on NXT more, them going down there to work with them, especially Bayley, and even Charlotte just doing that one segment with them, helping them through that. Like, they're doing a lot for the brand, and sure, you might want to look at it as developmental, but a lot of stuff they really do present this like a third brand. It's like, this is way better than 2019 when they had, but because the main roster was doing so bad in 2019, they had to do a Survivor Series with NXT to showcase us something new. Because 2019 was one of the worst years in WWE history. Aside from Becky Lynch going on her run and Kofi, the build up to Kofi Mania, there wasn't many positives in 2019. So that's why they had to get the NXT account. And this either 2018 or 2019. It could have been both years, because towards the end of 2018 it wasn't good either. So at this point now, can't look at it as developmental. And then in February and March, NXT, I felt like they had the best weekly TV show. Obviously, I can't give my opinion on that for May. In May, I'm pretty sure I can't give my opinion for May yet. So y'all have to tune into my podcast this Saturday at 9:30 p.m. Central to see who I think had the best weekly TV show this month. But 2 out of the first 4 months of the year, they had the best weekly TV show. They're the most consistent. They feature their wrestlers a lot, and I'm gonna get into all that down the line in this video, so I can't go super deep into it. But they did have the best weekly TV show, in my opinion. I feel like they're the most consistent. They do a really great job showcasing the women, and I feel like it's a really equal balance between the main event scene, the mid-card scene. They try to defend all the titles on the pay-per-views if they can. And if they're not, then champions are being featured, or they're the number one contenders match on the pay-per-view to build to something else. My next Stephanie Valkyrie in March. I gave her female superstar of the year, female superstar of the month during March because of how good she was. And I can tell y'all now, she's in the running for that this month as well. That's how great Stephanie Valkyrie's been. She's been having a really good year so far, doing some great stuff in the mid card scene and the main event scene, fluctuating between both. The match with Julia obviously it wasn't the greatest since Julia was hurt, and now she's probably getting called up. She just lost the title, which I don't like the decision of JCJ winning it, but Stephanie Valkyrie is main roster ready. She's been main roster ready since she got there. And then the last talking point for top moments of 2025 so far, Hank and Tank and what they've done as a tag team, with them being tag team of the month for, in my opinion, in April. And I'm gonna get later in the video. I'm gonna talk more about Hank and Tank and how good they've been this year and how much they've improved. Because at first I wasn't behind them, but slowly they've started. They've been doing some solid stuff. So I can't, like I said, because this is another talking point I want to get into with them at a different part of the video. So next, I'm going to talk about some of the pay-per-views, and I have did a recap for every pay-per-view of NXT so far. Did a watch-along for one of them, I think, maybe two, but I definitely did one for Stand and Deliver, I remember. But I have videos you can find for Vengeance Day, for Stand and Deliver, for Battleground. And their pay-per-views have been better than the main roster pay-per-views this year. And we can compare we can do that. We can compare it to the main roster pay-per-views that have taken place with the Royal Rumble, which was a pretty mediocre event. I mean, either Royal Rumble 6 out of 10. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't nothing special either. It wasn't nothing groundbreaking. And then Vengeance Day came that same month. I give it a 7 out of 10 because then Vengeance Day had some great stuff. Stephanie Valkyrie defeating Fallon Henley to win the North American title. Great title change happened at the right time, and it was a good match. Fraction beating Briggs and Moore to retain the tag titles, even though I didn't like Briggs and Moore at the time. Still don't like them now, but it's a conversation for a different day. But Fraction retaining their titles here, they ended up losing it to the right team later down the line. Obafemi retaining versus Theory and Waller. Great match, didn't advance the story of Theory versus Waller, but the match was great. Julia retaining in the Fatal 4-Way versus Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and Bayley. Hate the fact that Roxanne was one that took the pin, but the match was still great nonetheless. And there was Jordan Grace's official debut. That was her official signing with WWE as Jordan Grace and Stephanie. They held up the titles together, and that's when Jordan Grace came to the ring. And then we have to see where that ended up going. The only reason why I gave Vengeance Day a 7 out of 10 is because the match with Eddie Thorpe and Trick didn't really make sense. It's a scrap match with Trick dominating most of it just from the lose to Eddie Thorpe of all people. Then Javon Evans taking a pin to Ethan Page after all they went through with their rivalry. So they're still doing it now, which isn't bad, but didn't really advance much there. Then what if they do it the next pay-per-view? The next pay-per-view got better. And the next pay-per-view got better. Like so far there's 3 pay-per-views. Each one, in my opinion, has gotten better. The quality has picked up, the matches have gotten better. The story's been better heading to it. Then what was Stand and Deliver? That's the same weekend as WrestleMania. I gave WrestleMania 7.5 out of 10 that weekend. And then I gave Stand and Deliver 8 out of 10. And Elimination Chamber, they came in April, so I can't, no, they came in March, so I can't, there was no NXT pay-per-view in March, but Elimination Chamber was great for WWE. But then it went down to WrestleMania. Then went down in Backlash, in my opinion, because Backlash was just a 6 out of 10. Elimination Chamber was the only great WWE pay. It was the only amazing WWE pay-per-view this year for the main roster. But getting into Stand and Deliver, Ricky Saints retaining the North American Championship versus Ethan Page. And obviously they're putting the buck back on that, and Ethan Page is the North American Champion now. And it was actually a really fun match that I enjoyed on NXT this past week, because I got caught up on it as I'm filming this, and the match was enjoyable. It was a good way to start the show. It's a great title change. I have no problems with it. And then what else? Hank and Tank, they defeated Fraction to finally win the tag team titles. And their story going into it was one of the best stories in NXT this year. So shout out to Hank and Tank. And then Fraction would end up being called up. Sol Ruka become the new Women's North American Champion. Amazing decision, very well deserved. Obviously, the spots with Zarya, I wasn't a big fan of, but maybe they do something with it. He had some other key moments like Stack's heel turn. Wasn't the biggest fan of that. And then the two world title matches were great. It was just the wrong people took the pins. Like Jada Parker should have won, or if she wasn't gonna win, she shouldn't have took the pin. So you could have did the rematch of them two. That's her versus Akira. And then Javon Evans had to take the pin against Obafemi. But they still had Javon Evans in a good spot. Jada Parker not really doing nothing with. Like she's feuding with Thea Hill, which isn't bad, but what is it gonna lead to? Let's throw in a contendership. Throw in something to make this feel more important. Like the Tatum Paxley stuff, I'm not really messing with right now, but we'll get into that because we're not at that part yet. But then the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match on the Kickoff show, wasn't a fan of that. With decisions they made in that for the number one contendership, but Tatum Paxley and Judy Dolan winning was a good surprise, and the match they had was actually really fun against Liv and Raquel. And that following week on NXT, that was a great match. That was a great decision. Now, Battleground. Excuse me. 8.5. Notice my ratings and my personal opinion keep going up. Of Akira retaining the women's championship against Jordan Grace. What a match. That was a great match. I really enjoyed it. Akira, she proved that she belongs. Jordan Grace did too. And then they're both going up to the main roster. That's the rumor. Very well deserved. Obafemi defeating Miles Bourne to retain the title. Miles Bourne proved what he should be the number one contender, why he can be a champion in NXT, why he can do stuff on his own. He proved that he doesn't need no quarter catch through. Obviously, he didn't win, but this is a great showing. He could have easily folded in that moment, but he didn't. He stood on business, and he was great in that match. Obviously, he lost because the Jasper Troy is probably going to win it. The guy that came up from Evolve, not Evolve, but LFG, and they represented him very well. So, Trick Williams defeating Joe Hendry to become the new TNA champion. What a surprise. When did you think a WWE superstar would ever win a TNA championship under WWE contract? Nobody ever thought that would happen until this partnership came along. And it took a while. It took like, a year for us to get here, but it still happened. This is great for business. This is great for both companies. And that was a great way to close the show. Fans were shocked. It was a very shocking moment. Like TNA being able to take this risk with this, because it could be a risk, but Trick Williams was the right person to do it. Trick Williams is now a 3-time world champion, 2 times in NXT, 1 time in TNA, and he don't have to hold it super long, but the segment him and Mike Santana had was pretty good. So he could, maybe he lose it next week to Mike Santana. I hope he gets to keep it at least a little longer than 2 weeks, but this is going to work out for both companies and both brands. Sol Ruka defeating Sol Ruka winning over Kalani Jordan. I'm not surprised. It's just a Zarya stuff. I didn't really mess with Tony D over Stacks over Tony D. The stuff with Luka, that was kind of weird. Then Hank and Tank teaming with Briggs, feature Cullen, and what's the name coming back? Inamura. And it was like he was gone for 2 weeks. So he was in Japan for 2 weeks. I'm like, so some of that's kind of weird. Like, obviously, it's going to be a problem I have with each pay-per-view. That's not always the case. I mean, out of all the pay-per-views that have took place this year between the 4 companies I named earlier, it's only been one that I gave a 10 out of 10. And that was TNA Under Siege. Like, not majority of these, like 97% of these shows will not be perfect. And it's all about personal opinion and preference. Because I've only gave one pay-per-view a 10 out of 10 this year, and that was in TNA. Not even the biggest, not even the second biggest company. But as far as the pay-per-views goes for NXT, it gets better and better each time. So what's next? Worlds Collide. That's gonna be main roster and NXT talent. Which that brings me to another point. If NXT was still developmental, then why would they feature them with Worlds Collide, a company they just bought? You have a world title match between Chad Gable and Vikingo. So you're also featuring other NXT talent. You have a fatal 4-way with Ethan Page, Javon Evans, Ray Phoenix, and Laredo Kid. So you have 3 different brands being represented. Well, 4 different brands. You have 3 different brands being represented. So think about that. They're putting NXT talent not just with AAA, but they're putting them on with main roster talent as well. Obviously, Ray Phoenix, he's won titles around the world, so he wasn't going to go straight to NXT. Now, some people could make the same argument for it. Should have just been on the main roster to begin with. But this is a collab pay-per-view, not just for WWE and uh, uh, AAA, but it's including NXT as well, which is a part of WWE. It's not just the main roster talent that's wrestling; it's NXT talent there as well. Legado del Fantasma has the match on the card. Like that shows you how much they care about NXT and how much they believe in their talent down there. Like when some of these people get called up, they're going to be in good positions. I believe that. Like Stephanie Valkyrie, Jordan Grace, they're getting called up soon. They're going to be in good positions. Julia and Roxanne just qualified for Money in the Bank in matches that featured Becky Lynch and Charlotte in their respective matches. And neither one of those women won because obviously they got other stuff going on. But they easily could have said, put Becky and Charlotte in here for star power, but they said no. Put Julia and Roxanne in here, the new women on the rosters, on their respective brands that you have, that you want to tell stories with. Now, speaking of stories, let's talk about the best stories of 2025 so far. Number one, in my opinion, it has to be Hank and Tank losing streak. Like they lost 5 or 6 matches in a row, maybe more, but each week it was Street Profits, Motor City Machine Guns, Pretty Deadly. Like teams who have won championships in WWE or the Motor City Machine Guns who won the TNA, they're former tag team champions, and they're giving advice to these younger guys who need some motivation. And then you get to the gauntlet match where they run through all the tag teams that they lost to. Every tag team that they lost to during their losing streak, they beat in the gauntlet match to end up facing fraction for the tag titles. So it was a great story that they built with this because they were getting motivation. Like this was a story that I was actually excited about. It was like, damn, they keep losing, but this gauntlet match, it's like, so you tell me Hank and Taker in this gauntlet match 3 weeks in a row they didn't have former tag team champions talk to them. So yes, it becomes obvious, but the obvious choice isn't the bad choice. This was a good time you make the obvious decision to let Hank and Tank win. Then they defeat Fraction for the tag titles, and they're doing good this year. Now they end up wrestling a lot. Like they've wrestled the most tag team matches out of any tag team in WWE period this year. So they're going hard this year. Obviously that might be a bad thing because you might need more tag teams, but they've been doing great themselves. So shout out to Hank and Tank. Next, I would say Trick Williams walking into another company and winning their world title. This is great. And TNA, it's not surprising TNA would do this because they also let Kenny Omega hold the TNA world title when they had a partnership with AEW. But I think the partnership with WWE has been going a lot better. I think the people you have in charge, I think this is a lot better situation because I feel like TNA and WWE, their styles mesh together really well. So this is a great idea to have them together. I mean, and then this story with Trick Williams, with him becoming Hollywood Trick, let's talk about it. Like, I love that for Trick Williams. And him now being a 3-time world champion, he's the only WWE superstar to win the TNA title while being under WWE contract. That's not something that's ever been done before. It's a history-making moment. The match with him and Joe was fun. The build-up to it was really good, too. And shout out to Joe Hendry because he was doing this thing, too. I like Joe Hendry. But Trick Williams deserved this moment, and it makes a lot of sense for him to win. Number 3, wouldn't necessarily call this a story, but it's like an honorable mention. But Stephanie Valkyrie just taking on all challengers, being in multiple fatal 4-way matches or triple threats, just being in any type of match, really. Team who she has to team with, and just taking on all challengers and all comers. Just a fighting champion gimmick. It's super basic, but it works, and it works really well with Stephanie Valkyrie. The English is improving. Like that's the one reason why she wanted to go to NXT, so her English could improve. She's doing a good job with that. And now she's getting called up to Raw. So Stephanie Valkyrie is going to be great. Next, Zarya becoming jealous of Sol Ruka. Now, even the reason I say I don't like the stuff with Zarya is because the interferences feel the same. Like not just with Zarya herself, but in other matches as well. That's a conversation, a different video for another day. But this story is actually really good with Zarya becoming jealous when Sol Ruka said that she was going to qualify. Then Zarya had that look on her face. They were both on the ladder, and Sol Ruka really didn't care. She still won the title. Her trying to get involved in her matches. They're doing a good job with this. Eventually, when she does turn, like her beating Sol Ruka for the title would make sense. or her costing Sol Ruka the title potentially, and them going one-on-one since they were supposed to be a tag team now. She's kind of an afterthought in the situation. The next, Dark State just creating chaos. Like the way that they did that was really perfect. Even though it was essentially the retribution angle, they did it a lot better with NXT. Like this, and then the guys they had for this group made a lot more sense. Like there's no leader in this. Like Mustafa Ali leading the retribution. Come on now. Like Mustafa Ali can lead a group, but he's not causing that much chaos. Like Mustafa, you know what? And this is nothing against Mustafa Ali, but that time in 2021, I think it was, compared to now, Mustafa Ali is way better than that now. So him doing that now would make more sense. But then getting on topic again, but Dark State just creating chaos, then they're not being a leader. Like for weeks we saying maybe it's Trick, maybe it's the Run. The whole time it's neither one of them. People even thought it was Stacks at one time. But no, it wasn't. They just don't have a leader. So they just create chaos to do what they want. Now they ain't creating as much chaos now, but them introducing themselves like we're here and we're here to stay. Like I like that. Like they should be in next in line for tag titles, because they do have a weird overhanging tank. So the fact they ain't got a tag team title shot yet is kind of weird to me. But hopefully they revisit that at some point. And then this is an honorable mention. I mentioned it earlier. Bayley and Roxanne Perez. It was great when what they was doing on Raw and NXT. It just didn't have a proper conclusion with a one-on-one match. It would have been a perfect number one contenders match to see who would face Lara at WrestleMania. But the feud, I enjoyed it. I just wish it had a proper conclusion. But another honorable mention. Next, let's talk Obafemi. His title reign. People have complained about NXT not having challengers, having a weak main event scene. Now, does that statement hold true? Is the main event scene weak compared to the main roster compared to other companies? Yes, it is. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is they found a way to make this work. They found a way to make this a great title reign. So he won it January 7th to start the year. He defeated Eddie Thorpe and Trick Williams in a triple threat match for the NXT Championship. Great decision. Eddie Thorpe being in the main event scene, weird period in time, weird period this year. But all these matches Obafemi has had have been good matches at worst. He hasn't had a bad match as the NXT champion. Then he defeated Eddie Thorpe in a one-on-one to retain the title. Then he's won multiple triple threat matches. He even won in a triple threat to win the title. So his title reign has been really good so far. He's been champion over 100 days now. His stuff versus the match versus Wilder in Theory, as I said, great match. It just didn't further anything between Wilder and Theory specifically. But for Obafemi, this was great too. Main roster guys. Wilder, who never won the title, I don't think they trying to get their shine back in NXT, and they're not able to do that. Because Obafemi is just so dominant as a main event guy. Defeating Moose one-on-one to retain the title. That was one of the best matches with this partnership with TNA and NXT. That was a really good match. Enjoyed that. And obviously, I said Moose should win, but Obafemi winning, obviously it makes sense. Obviously, it was a good decision. I just wanted to see the title change hands between the brands, and it did finally happen. It happened a few months later than I wanted to see it, but it still happened, so I'm not complaining. He defeated Trick Williams and Javon Evans at Stand and Deliver. It was a great match. I just say that Javon had to take the pin, but it was a great match. It definitely delivered. All three guys did their thing. Then he just defeated Miles Bourne in a really good one-on-one match at Battleground. So it's like, in the way that these guys got here, it's like specifically the last few matchups with Javon Evans, he's the underdog getting overlooked. He's trying to prove himself. Then he got the respect of Obafemi, even though he lost, he was still able to get the respect. Trick Williams never got his proper one-on-one rematch that Eddie Thorpe did. Nasty work, but we're not going to talk about it. Miles Bourne, one of the 25-man Battle Royal, then beating Ethan Page, a former champion, proving that he should be in the main event scene and having a good match. Having to take 3 falls from graces to lose the match. It took Obafemi 3 falls from graces to retain the title versus Miles Bourne, a guy who probably none of us expected to be in the main event scene. But it worked out, and it was really good. The segments were great. that he's did with some of these people. Like he's did a lot of great. Obafemi is a really good promo. Like I think Obafemi is main roster ready. I think he's better than a lot of people on the Raw and Smackdown roster. He's better than people in other companies. That's how great Obafemi is. And you've seen the signs with him as North American champion. So Obafemi's reign has been great. Now Jasper Troy's potentially next. So I'm excited to see what they're doing there. Even though the main event scene may be weak, they're doing a good job throwing challenges at him, making stories, making it actually make sense. Like the stuff with Moose, they did that really well. You say we have a weak main event scene, okay, we can go to TNA and we can fix that. We can throw in Moose while we figure something else out for him to do it. And they did that. We can bring Wilder Theory down after he defeated Eddie Thorpe and have Eddie Thorpe and Trick do their stuff. We can bring down 2 main roster people to help our division. So they did a great job with Obafemi's title reign. It's been a really good title reign, despite the fact that the main event scene in NXT is considered weak for the men's division. Like it may be their weakest part of the show, but it doesn't affect them. That doesn't hinder NXT. Then to end this video, I'm gonna close with the best matches this year. I think, and this isn't necessarily best matches, but the best / favorite matches, just for stories and stuff like that. I'll go with Hank and Tank winning the Gauntlet match. Obviously, I talked about it with the story that they had during that time in April, leading up to Stand and Deliver. Julie retaining versus Roxanne, Bayley, and Cora Jade to retain the NXT Women's title when she was champ at the time. I hate the fact that Roxanne had to take the pin, but that's not going to take away the fact that the match was really good and really enjoyable. It was a great match. All 4 women did their thing. They all shined. Even Cora Jade, who I know a lot of people don't like as far as wrestling goes, but Cora Jade did her thing in that match. And Cora Jade, she was getting better than me, and it sucks that she had to get released, but no, we're here to talk about Ricky Saints defeating Shawn Spears, even though I didn't like the timing of it. Ricky Saints defeating Shawn Spears for the North American title. Great match. Really enjoyed that. I had fun with that match. Then Trick recently just at Battleground beating Joe Hendry in the main event for the TNA World title. Once again, it's a story that's there. And then it's the fact that Trick just won the TNA championship as an active WWE superstar. So that's history making. And the story going into that was really good. They probably had one of the best stories in wrestling this month. Yeah. But shout out to Trick Williams, shout out to Joe Hendry. Because it takes 2 to tango. If one guy carries a match, then it won't be good. And nobody was carrying this match. They both did their parts. And that's still equals in my opinion. Like I don't think it makes anybody look lesser. Obviously Trick is a bit higher since he is the champion right now. But they can still be looked at as equals, especially if Joe gets it back, if he wins it back at some point. Yeah, Kalani Jordan beating Roxanne Perez in the qualifying match. Even though Kalani Jordan shouldn't have been in the qualifying match for the North American title again, a fun match, fun qualifier. But she should be in the main event scene. But overall, I do think NXT is the best. It's the A show. It's the best show in WWE now. The weekly TV shows have been way more consistent than the Raw and Smackdowns. The pay-per-views have been better. They've had, obviously, from a Wrestling Awards of the Month, superstars from every company win awards. But they've been super consistent this year. The storylines have been great. Obafemi's title reign has been spectacular. Despite having a weak main event scene, there's been some really fun and good matches. Like I said, it's been some really good top moments this year. And yeah, that's all I got for this video. Let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think NXT is the A show? Do y'all still look at it as a developmental brand? Because I don't look at it like that anymore. But let me know your arguments down in the comment section below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and have a great day.